Hello, basketball fans. DC Hewitt here from Fantasy Basketball Analyzer. And you guys at home won't know it, but I've had a ton of trouble recording this show. I keep having camera issues, so let's hope it gets through it this time. We're here to talk about week 20 of the fantasy basketball season. We're going to take a look at the games played, strength schedule, and then we'll talk about some waiver wire, both worth picking up for season long potentially, and some options to stream if you're in a daily change league. So without further ado, let's take a look at the schedule. This week's interesting because teams all play either 3 or 4 games. So you don't have to worry about any 2 games, which are must sits. So you can probably play anyone you want, although as always, 4 games is preferable 3 if you're in a weekly lock league. It's also interesting because if you are in a daily change league, the only days really streamable are going to be Thursday and Saturday, because those are the days with I think 4 games and 6 games, so they're the only times that really drop below the standard where you could be picking up people to just play for that. So we'll have to take a look at that. So beyond just looking at who's playing 3 and 4 games, let's take a look at the strength of schedule. I'll bring this up. If you watch every week, you know how I do this, but if you're new to it, I use Hollinger's PER numbers. And then I take a look at the pace and defensive efficiency, average them out, and that's how I find the teams that give most fantasy value, or can be kind of the stingiest, because pace really has a big impact on it. And when we just look at, stats versus position, sometimes it can be misleading. Pace also really helps when you're looking at which games to attack for DFS lineups. So if we look at the averages of the teams we kind of expect, the only changes from last week is Memphis, which is holding itself together with like bubblegum and shoestrings right now. Memphis has climbed back up over that 107 mark, which puts them in the tastiest matchups, if you will, the teams we really want to attack. And Memphis, which has been, playing standout defense all year long, but their pace has been buoying them a bit. It's finally creeped down there into that 103, down there in the bottom of the league. But they play fast enough that you can still get some numbers on them, even if your team's not playing that well. For fantasy, they don't necessarily scare us off as much as some other options. So with that in mind, let's go roll on into looking at the actual schedule and take a look at what we've got. So for the strength of schedule, I highlighted the good games and bad games, based on what we just looked at. There's also something to consider here where we're talking about, who else are they playing? So when if we look at the very first thing, Atlanta gets to play Memphis on Monday. Both of those teams are teams you want to attack. So if they're playing each other, not great defenses, really high pace of play, there's extra fantasy goodness available in those leagues, at least presumably. We never know for sure, but this is how we project, right? And if we look at, say, Tuesday, where the Lakers are playing Philly, well, that should be an interesting basketball game. Well, actually, maybe not, because Philly's so beat up. But those are both good defenses that when they match up, those are teams that we really want to attack. Like Lakers play plenty fast, but they're not the fastest pace in the league at all. And Philly's even slower than that. So you don't say, ooh boy, they get to play each other. I really want to attack that matchup. So when it's teams like that, both good, both bad, that's where I put the green or red boxes around it now. So I've also included the link below if you want to look at these sheets yourself. You go to the Google Sheets, sharing them for free. You can check that out. But otherwise, let's take a look at some of these that we're talking about. So Atlanta, despite only having 3 games, which, isn't too exciting that you want to get after, they get to play Memphis, Washington, Memphis. Those are all plus matchups, which are really good to get after. And if you're doing streaming, Friday, Saturday, back-to-back there. So you could pick up an Atlanta guy for the weekend and play him. And Saturday specifically is one of those days that, has lesser games because we're talking Thursday and Saturday, where you might be able to stream some guys. We're not talking about the back-to-backs, but let me just jump forward and we can do that. So I'll bring up the back-to-back calendar. You guys can see it. You can pause it, grab the screenshot, whatever you want, open the Excel. So you can see the back-to-backs here. It's worth noting that I wanted to say Phoenix, but Milwaukee plays on Sunday. That's actually the first of a back-to-back. And Toronto plays on Sunday. That's the first of a back-to-back for them. So depending on what waiver moves you make this week, you might be able to roll into next week, use some waiver claims, grab someone who's about to play in a back-to-back and go for it because it's not a big streaming week. If you are trying to stream Thursday, Saturday, or those days to attack, there are a handful of teams that actually have games on both Thursday and Saturday, and those are the people you might want to consider specifically targeting if you're in a daily change league. So those teams, if we take a look here, are Charlotte, Denver, Golden State, which has a pretty rough week, Houston, Philly, and Sac. So any of those 6 teams, if you're in a daily change league and you get them, you can probably play someone into your lineup on Thursday and Saturday, which makes those players a little more valuable to pick up. And since I put out this video earlier, hopefully you can swoop in, grab some guys, and get those numbers built up as you're making your playoff push. All right, if you can see the back-to-backs here, let's go ahead and switch back to our strength of schedule, and we can break that down a little bit more. So we're looking at the strength of schedule. Like I said, I like Atlanta, and it's nice because they get one of those Saturday games, and there's a back-to-back there. Another interesting schedule note, Minnesota and New Orleans play each other twice. So that's 2 of the teams we like to attack playing against each other. So on Tuesday they play each other and Sunday, which means Minnesota actually has a pretty good week because they get Pelicans, Chicago you're not afraid of. Orlando's a tough matchup for them Pelicans again. And New Orleans has a kind of middle of the road. Like they've got a 4-game week. They get Minnesota twice. That's great. They've got Dallas and they got Miami. So you're not terrified of them. Miami's been a pretty good defense all season, although they're playing pretty rough. They're like 3-7 in the last 10 games or something. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Miami. So it's something to look out for. But what other notes do I have here? Dallas has a pretty good schedule. So they play Chicago, you're not afraid of. They get New Orleans and Memphis that you like to attack. And then Indy on Sunday, which has a pretty good defense. So it's something to consider. But, there could be some ancillary pieces here. We talked last week about Seth Curry. So there could be some options there where you want to be playing some of your Dallas guys. Harder schedule, I touched on it when I was talking about their good streaming, say, for Golden State, because they get Thursday and Saturday. But Golden State not only has 3 games, it's Denver, Toronto, Philly. So good defenses with slower pace in general. Those are teams at the bottom that we tag as trouble, and they went 3 for 3 for trouble teams. And the Lakers have theoretically a bit of a harder schedule. I mean, they have 3 games, so it's not super desirable, right? They play Philly, who's banged up, so maybe that changes it. But they got Philly, the Bucks, and then the Clippers. That's not exactly like that basketball wise, especially if Philly were healthy. That's a pretty awesome week. Like that means I want to catch the Lakers a bunch. I want to see all those games because those are like playoff level teams. But Philly's pretty hurt. So fantasy wise, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not as afraid of that team right now, but they still have great defenders on there. It's just for like the way the game goes overall. But Bucks Clippers, you're not like, oh boy, I really want to attack those for fantasy reasons. And there's 3 games. So if you're in a weekly lock league, you might have to make some considerations there. You guys may not notice it, but the camera actually froze up there again. If it keeps doing that, I'm going to start taking my son's Nerf gun, shooting at my camera rig until it starts working. Which I don't think is the technological fix, but it'll make me feel better if it doesn't fix anything. All right. We'll stop wherever I was talking about the strength of schedule, and we'll jump into some waiver moves now that we're recording again. So, actually, before I talk about waivers, I want to add extra input because especially here in the home stretch where we're trying to get in the playoffs, right? I keep talking about it. You want to be playing chess while others are playing checkers, right? If we look ahead a week for week 21, it's worth noting that there's a bunch of teams with 2-game weeks. So if you're trying to pick someone up for streaming in a weekly lock league or a daily change league, something worth noting, because if you're doing a daily change and you're just picking someone up to play for the weekend, you might want to remember that some of these teams aren't going to be very viable next weekend. Or if, like I said, there's not a ton of streaming this week based on, how many games are being played every day. It's worth noting that there are like 6 teams that only play 2 games next week. And so those aren't maybe the best guys to play this weekend if you're going to have to make extra waiver moves, So for week 21, just to note now, Detroit, Indy, Philly, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Toronto all played 2 games next week. So like I noted that Toronto Sunday is their first of a back to back, meaning they play Sunday, they're going to play again Monday, and then they're going to have a layoff for a while. So they might be worth a move, but like you're not going to get a ton of value rolling in next week with it. So I'll just call that out now. And then we'll talk about some players specifically. So someone I like, James Johnson, is out there. He's only owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues right now. Over the last 2 weeks, based on averages, he's the 56th best player in 8 categories. He's averaging almost 14 points, almost 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. He's also 52% from the floor, 77, almost 78% from the line. So he's not hurting you anywhere. He doesn't really get threes. He's averaging a half a three, but it's not something you'd count on from him. But a steal and 2 blocks alone is good. He's helping you all over the place, and he's only owned in 23% of the leagues right now on Yahoo. So he's widely available. Minnesota has 4 games this coming weekend. I already talked about their schedule. They get to play the Pelicans twice, Chicago and Orlando is the only team that maybe scares you there from a matchup standpoint. So James Johnson's a great pickup and play this week for all week. Now, next week he's only got 3 games, but, this is actually like potentially a season-long move after the trades. And now there's injuries and stuff. There's a reason he's getting the extra opportunity there, but I like James Johnson as a pickup a lot. If you're looking for another big and you're just trying to get through, Henry Giles has been playing well. He's only like 8% owned on Yahoo last time I checked. We've got Bagley out. He's probably going to miss the rest of the year. Shout out to Keith, one of the fans who's always commenting. I know you're waiting on Rashawn Holmes. I know you want to hear more. I've been seeing you post and tweet about it. I don't have any extra info yet. Let's hope that maybe we hear something coming back next week. He's in the gym. He's shooting around, but we don't have a release date. And until we do, Harry Giles has been playing well. If you get Sacramento and you get him out there right now, he's got a 4-game week. He gets to play Washington and Portland twice. You like those matchups. And if you are in a daily change league, they play both Thursday and Saturday. So you get him on those streamable days. That could be a really good pickup for you depending on what you're trying to build up, right? Coby White's just been on fire. I actually don't know his ownership. Let me double check this. Get a live number as I'm recording this to you. So Coby White's actually 58% owned now. He's actually spiked, so he doesn't quite make this cut, although still available in like 40% of leagues. It's worth taking a look. Chicago gets 4 games this week, and it's one of, they get 4 games this week and next week, so you can roll them out there for a little bit, even though I've been like saying how bad the Bulls schedule is. This is kind of the end stretch. So if he's available, go grab him while he's hot. He's probably not available for most of you. They also, it's worth noting, the Bulls don't have any streaming days, right? They don't play on Thursday or Saturday. So if you get him, he'd have to be better than someone else you're playing, since you're clearly only playing him for like points and threes. It's something to consider. If you're looking for someone to play for threes, Ben McLemore is out there in a lot of leagues. You go pick him up potentially if you're trying specifically to get threes, because Houston is one of those teams that are playing on both Thursday and Saturday. So if you're in a daily change league, you can pick him up and just play him to try and get those extra 3-pointers to help you win the week, or pad that if you're playing Roto or something like that. I also like Monte Morris. If you're trying to stream to get field goal percentage, Monte Morris has a game for Thursday and Saturday. So if you want to get him out there. So Monte Morris hasn't really been killing it, right? 7 points, 3 assists, but he got 2 steals, 8 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, but he got 3 steals. So you're getting those steals there. And for a guard, if I just run this for the last 14-day average, he's averaging 53% from the floor and 2 steals a game. So Denver only plays 3 games this week. I don't think it's worth a look in a weekly lock league. But if you can do daily changes, he plays on Thursday and Saturday, and it's Charlotte and Cleveland. Like, Denver's got a good schedule. They get Golden State, Charlotte, Cleveland. So they're not teams you're afraid of at all, but it's only 3 games. And Monte Morris isn't necessarily like a hold. He's just specializing in, he can help you in your field goal percentage. He fits those streamable days, and he's been getting a lot of steals. So he's something you might want to look at in your daily change leagues to really get an advantage. All right, I think I'll just leave it there. The camera made it through. Finally, I'll get it together and get it out to you guys early this week. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like. Please leave a comment. It helps grow the channel. Helps me going. If you got any questions, I love answering them. Go ahead and hit me up either in the comments on the YouTube video, or you can tweet at me at bballanalyzer. Thanks for watching. Go out there and win your week, everybody.